I will crave your indulgence to maybe start by really appreciating Mr. President and praying that he will be the modern St. Paul of Nigeria, because his antecedents when he was the governor of Lagos State was quite opposite of what he's trying to save Nigeria from now. He was one of the first governors that created development areas and practically brought the autonomy of local government into dispute. And so it was a very pleasant surprise and very gladdening that he's at the forefront today through the instrumentality of his Attorney General to now refocus the status of local government into the discourse for the country. And he's seen it from the perspective that it may really be the solution to the endemic problems that has engulfed the country from the point of development, security, and all sorts of things. So I'm sure by the time he's finishing his tenure, we'll be calling him Tinubu Ahmed Bola St. Paul of Nigeria. So with that, I'd like to say that the schedules of the local government council in this country represents the totality of the activities that are made up of the daily living needs of the people at the local government area or wherever else you reside. Because indeed, every part of the country is residual to the local government council. So all activities that you know are encompassing your daily needs, from your taxes, the maintenance of your road, your refuse collection, your health management, your local education management, are all the prime schedules of the local government system. I just got the snipes from the yesterday's speaker that advertisement, the collection of taxes in the park, in the market, the sewage management, everything else is contained in Schedule 4, and it's very clear, very distinctive. The state governors have just usurped all these daily activities of the local government system by stripping them of their funding, and so it has rendered the system inept for the purpose for which it was created for. And so you can see that the local government system is the government for the people at their point of need and a point of residence. Everything else that you see that local government don't do today has been taken over by the governor, or by the second tier of government, let me call it this time this way. So it is the loss of the country, really. Because, and I keep, the emphasis has always been about funding, or loss of funding to the local government system. No, it is the loss of the political development of the people, of the country. Because once there is nothing happening in the local government system, political development does not take place. We lose everything else by having an unstable local government system in this country. The development of the political profile of individuals and the development of political ideology of the individuals are lost. Because everything is usurped and done in the government house at the state today. So the loss is more colossal than the schedules, the daily schedules we talk about, because it's becoming like a ringtone for the country now, funding, and then the loss of not allowing the local government people to do that. No, it's the loss of us, the politicians, because we practically have nothing to do. You can't influence elections, you can't encourage emergence of candidates, you can't encourage the propaganda of political activities or agenda or anything that you want to do, because everything is assumed, and in fact subsumed to the government house. So the idea is that the loss of the local government system functioning properly, it transcends the daily needs we keep talking about about the constitutional provisions of the country. It is even worse, because when the human capital is not developed, the mindset is not developed to know his responsibilities every 4 years, every political cycle, is a greater loss than the inactivity of the local government council. Because the local government officials, how many are there in the state or in the local government area? And what do they do that you don't do yourself? But when you don't have the enabling environment, the laws, the capacity to have an authority within you which you can influence, definitely then you have a problem coming more than the daily needs of the local government activities that are supposed to be carrying out.
Okay. Let me, just for the purpose of having a proper understanding of when local governments became like this, because growing up in Lagos, I remember that a local government chairman, then Surulere local government chairman, the first actually, chairman was elected from my neighborhood, from the streets where I grew up. And I know that he was able to tar the roads. We saw the road start for the first time. I could remember vividly how that road became at that time, an untarred road, but now paved and tarred for us, as well as other, streets around. Has it always been like this? At what time were you chairman? And was it always like this? Was it practice in truth? And maybe it will help if we also compare notes with Dame Pauline Tallen later when you are done. Maybe she will also share her own experience.
No, from my personal experiences, I have always maintained in this house that I had a very noble experience, because it gave me the opportunity to demonstrate that the government of the people at the local government is the most effective and useful tool for people's accomplishment of their daily needs. When I was a local government chairman, and with due respect and truthful to Governor Abdullahi Adamu, I was chairman between 1999 and 2003. Throughout our tenure, he never touched, nor instructed, nor got involved in our funding. All our payments were done strictly to our individual local government accounts. And so there was significant evidence that the funding that went to the local government councils were put into the needs of the development of the local government area. In my case, and that's what is standing me today, politically, so to say, because it is on record, really, that my 3 years as a local government chairman in Kenya has a standing record. With due respect and with all humility, I'm saying this for the purposes of the question that you have asked, that it is during my tenure that the council had its name rebranded as a developing area, as a unique area to come and see emerging democracy growing in true sense of it. Because I can remember that for 50 to 60 to 70% of most of the delegates that come from outside this country, that then president wanted to see democracy in action. He sends them to Nasarawa State, and immediately arriving at the government house after the cuts, they send them to Kiana local government to come and see what democracy is doing at the various for the various activities we're engaged in. And the thrust of my engagement was getting the people to own the government. And so I engaged in a very massive enlightenment program for people to know that this thing is residual in them. And because if you don't make them to know that the programs you are bringing to them is their own, you can build houses, you can build infrastructure, they will not own it, and that's the end of it. And so we were able to lay the foundation of even creating ward development areas and build offices that are meant for every ward. And the leadership of such wards are not made of political parties. They are made up of the stakeholders of the ward, made of a chairman and a secretary, a woman member and a youth member, and the secretary was posted from the council. And these halls were built by the people themselves. They were mobilized to the extent they were able to build their ward centers. If you go to every ward in Kenya today, those ward centers have been used for film houses, for clinics, and so on and so forth. Fundamentally, that was the taking point from me. But also to provide infrastructures, we constructed roads, we constructed the secretariat that stands out as one of the most famous today in this country. We were able to institutionalize what you call liaison office for the state, for the government, for the local government. Because of the nature of the road then, we initiated a liaison office in Lafia so that maybe you make a preliminary request before you go in, because Kenya then was on the highlight of mineral endowment. And so there were so many inquiries that were coming in, so we had to open a liaison office in Lafia for that. And we brought in, we renovated water projects, the health centers, and all the youth were involved in at one level of activities or the other. If there was any project that we were undertaking, it was the youth and the stakeholders that initiated them. Because before I even went into the activities, we had a summit of all the stakeholders, regardless of the party, for 3 days. And every community identified what was their priorities. And each of those priorities, I can say for 80% for the tenure I had, were executed. So the people were alive. People came to understand that they now are part of a government. They cared less what was happening in the state. They cared less what was happening at the federal government. And so the issues of of youth restiveness was minimized, because we had all these things that had become the nucleus of activities today. Small loans being given to people to buy kits for fixing tires for motorcycles, kits for repairing tires for trucks, for the machines, for generators. And during my tenure, the Japanese-Nigerian program was coming alive, and so there was the idea that light was coming to Kiana. So we were even ahead. We started recruiting people to train them for repairing of gens, fridges, and electricity, lightning and lining up of the houses and so on and so forth. So it was very full and very active and very engaging. And so because my funding was freely flowing to us, it was my responsibility to ensure that it was deployed to the areas of the immediate needs of my people, and it was reflective in their association and support that they gave me throughout my tenure.
Okay.